So in this video, I want to talk about my frustrations with Todoist. First off, the UI is just quirky. Sometimes tasks will stay where they are, and sometimes they won't. They'll just get resorted randomly for no reason, and sometimes they don't, and it's really hard to know when this is going to happen. I constantly find myself needing to refresh the entire app because sometimes changes just don't happen. They're just like not dynamic. But it's 2020. I mean, isn't this app supposed to be dynamic? Isn't Ajax something that we were supposed to figure out a long time ago? If you want to change a project for a task by dragging, you can't drag that task from inside a default view like today or a filter view. You have to be inside the original project folder and then drag that task to another project folder. Otherwise, the task will not drag. And this is really crazy because pretty much every app I could think about lets you do this. And the reason why is because it just gives you a quick way to make changes on the fly regardless of whatever view that you happen to be in that moment. But in Todoist, say you're in the Today view, well, you either have to go into the project folder, find the same task, and if you have a lot of tasks in there, it's going to take you some time to scroll down, or you're forced to use their really quirky pop-up menu system, which I hate using, or you could select it using the command key on a Mac and then use the top bar to make changes, which is nice to have, but sometimes you just want to drag it. And if I'm trying to drag multiple tasks into another project, well, you can only do that for one, maybe two tasks at a time, otherwise it just breaks down. If I select more than two tasks, the drag just doesn't happen for the rest of the task. So the only effective way to transfer more than two tasks at once to another project is selecting them as you would, but using that top bar and then transferring them to a different project. And that little pop-up window that pops up to the right of the task when you want to make little changes to it on the fly, it's really nice in theory, and I just really wish it was a lot smoother. It's really quirky, and every time I find myself clicking on a task to open up that pop-up window and the task is like anywhere near the bottom of the screen, it just scrolls the entire page just to fit that pop-up in the same exact spot. It just feels like a Funhouse Mirror Carnival ride, like I don't have control of the interface. You click on something and you want a pop-up window, don't force scroll the page on the user. And this was like very recently updated, but ever since the very beginning of this app, the layout has been a fixed centered layout, meaning there was always a massive margin to the left and the right of the interface. So to the left of the sidebar and to the right of the task view, giant white space. And dynamic layouts have been a thing for like a long time now. I mean, even Remember the Milk beat them to the punch here, and they took forever to update their app. And so yeah, it was really nice to see Todoist finally implement this dynamic layout change, but I mean, it just took them way too long to do something so simple. So now let's talk about limitations. You can only have 20 sections per project. So if you want to be a minimalist and not have that many projects, but you like to organize your projects and the projects say have a lot of tasks in them, well, I hope 20 sections is enough for you. Otherwise, you just got to make another project. And one of the main reasons why I use Todoist at all in the first place is because they have a lot of options for repeating tasks. And as someone that doesn't like to reinvent the wheel, repeating tasks are really nice to have. The problem with Todoist, though, is once you set up your task properly, it's very easy to make a quick little mistake. Sometimes it can go unnoticed, and it can cause detrimental damage to your task or project. So if you don't know the syntax perfectly and you type something just a little bit off but it looks right, you could cause some serious problems. So for example, you could have a task that's really important to you and you want to make a subtle edit, or maybe you're not even trying to edit it. Maybe you clicked on it by accident and you're trying to X out of that edit mode or whatever it might be. Well, whatever you just did, you might have actually turned off the repeating rule altogether for that task, and now that task is sitting at the bottom of a project somewhere and you may never see it again until you actually go into that project folder. And if your project folders have a lot of tasks in them and you don't usually go into the project folders manually, you usually use due dates and repeating rules, especially if the folder is for repeating tasks only, not only will you not get that task to repeat the next time you need it, like say next month, but you might forget about it for a long time. And if it's really important, but it's one of those important things that kind of gets pushed down by all the other important things in your life, well, you're out of luck, and you might have really missed something that you should have been doing for 3, 4, 5 months, maybe even an entire year, because you made one small tiny mistake with tweaking that task in edit mode. Another mistake along the same lines is say you're just scheduling a task for one time, but you want to make changes to the date. Say you're like, okay, I want to postpone this to a different date. It's really easy to postpone it to an incorrect date. For example, the AM PM, that's a really simple thing that happens a lot of times. You put in just a time, it's just going to assume AM. You have to put in PM for it to know you're talking about PM. That's not really a big deal because it's just going to be like one day off. But if you make a mistake that has to do with the year that you're in, well, I mean, you're not going to see that task for an entire year. So hopefully you pay very close attention to those details. Another thing that drives me absolutely crazy in this app is subtasks. Subtasks are absolutely broken inside of Todoist, mainly in tasks that are repeating. You think that the subtasks will be like bundled together inside of that main task. So you check off the subtask, you check off the main task, and then you schedule it for next time. Well, whatever you set for the main task does not apply to those subtasks. So once those subtasks are checked off, they're permanently checked off. You have to uncheck them. And there's a whole lot more that I can go into with this subtask problem, and I definitely will in another video. But yeah, subtasks are just broken. And probably the most obnoxious thing in Todoist in terms of limitations is the fact that if you really want to be productive inside of Todoist, you really have to use their filters. And it's just not something for beginners. And even someone like me, who I consider myself a more advanced user, I've been using productivity software for a while now, even I struggle with it because it's not super intuitive. Once you have things set up, you realize that it's not really the best solution, but it's really the best you can do inside of Todoist. It's really the furthest you can really go if you want to have maximum efficiency. So yeah, filters, they're cumbersome, they're not for beginners, they can be a pain, and they definitely need to be improved in the future. Yeah. But yeah, overall, in conclusion, Todoist just feels very rigid. It feels very sluggish. It doesn't feel dynamic like it should be, especially in 2020. I mean, dynamic stuff has been going on forever now. And overall, with our current user interface, it just doesn't feel like I have full control. But yeah, I don't recommend Todoist for serious projects, like, at all. I think Todoist is fine for small projects. It's fine for checklists. It's great for grocery lists, for example. It's great for having shared lists with people. Small little collaboration stuff. It's fine for personal stuff, as long as it's not too involved. But anything bigger than that, I don't recommend Todoist, at least not until they make some serious changes. And I mean, they had like a good start. Like, I remember I started using the app in April of 2013. It was pretty good. I was really happy with it. I know I was using multiple apps at the time. One of them was Wunderlist, and I really like Wunderlist's aesthetic, but I wasn't happy with a lot of things that were missing with Wunderlist. And then they had that rebrand in like October 2015. Not a whole lot changed. To be honest, Todoist basically stayed the same more or less. There was a new logo, and yes, they added some small features, but basically it was the same app. It looked a little bit better. It felt a little bit better. There are a couple nuances that were nice, but so for the entire time that I've used Todoist from 2013 and now, it's been like 7 years, and the app's basically been the same. I've been basically using the same app for 7 years. It's starting to really feel like Remember the Milk at this point. And I don't know if you've seen the original Todoist, but yeah, the original Todoist compared to what I started using in 2013 was a very big difference. I mean, the first version of Todoist, the one that was launched on App Store, it was very minimal. It was very bare bones. So I was really impressed with the version that I signed up with in 2013. And since they updated from that original, really old version to the one that I first started using when I signed up, I really haven't seen a leap that large. There's been some nice changes here and there, but they're more subtle, nuanced features. They're not really anything, impactful, in my opinion. And now you have apps like TickTick that are trying to basically clone Todoist, but at the same time make a better version of it, because they're probably thinking the same exact thing that I'm thinking. They're like, this would be a lot better if they had all these other features. The people over at TickTick basically looked at Todoist. They said, all right, let's take the foundations here and let's add a calendar view. Let's add all these other things that Todoist has been missing for, at this point, we're getting close to a decade here. And then you have productivity apps like Marvin that are taking it a whole nother level further. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with Todoist. I hope things change really soon, because we've all been waiting and paying this whole time. And yeah, that's all I have to say about the matter. I will definitely expand my thoughts in a future video. And until then, hit me up on Twitter. I'll see you in the next video.